I would not consider Minecraft emergent gameplay.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, what emergent systems are there?
The sandbox itself allows people to create stuff that the designer themselves did not intend.
Sure, it's a creative tool. It's not emergent gameplay.
He's getting drowsy. I gotta keep him alive. Hey, Alex. We got a second class. We got a second class
All right,
we gotta
let's
go
go.
to. Okay. What I did want to talk a little bit about was linear versus emergent gameplay. Chances are, if you have played any game, whether it be in tabletop or video games, you have experienced these two different types of gameplay. So I thought I would talk a little bit about that today. Now, the interesting thing is, I started looking up, I wanted to find good examples, right, of this linear versus emergent gameplay. And for some reason, the little AI assistant automatically starts typing away when I do that. to say, like, here's a bunch of things, we aggregated a bunch of information from a bunch of places.
Great. Thanks, AI assistant that I'm never going to use myself.
And ultimately, and this is maybe a gripe I have with the different ones that they have, is they'll cite like 4 different sources, but then you see that they've only earmarked like one of them for the entirety of it. But anyway, I figured these are perfectly a few examples of the different kinds of gameplay that we can look at least. So, linear games. Mario's a great example of that. There's a specific way that you go through that game that the developers want you to go through, and there's a point A to point B. There's a set path. Largely similar gameplay. And then you basically have those sort of games. I would say that Souls-likes in a lot of ways actually fall into this, because there are specific pathways that you have to go down, and then there are specific roadblocks that you have to pass in order to get to the next thing.
Well, except for Elden Ring.
Except for Elden Ring, which is probably more of the emergent gameplay we're going to get to in a second. So, my Bing assistant... Yes, Bing.
Yeah,
sorry.
That's why you're having issues.
That is why I'm having issues. Has 4 examples that they give, and I'm going to take issue with one of them. But anyway, Half-Life 2, Halo 3, Mass Effect 2, and Plague Tale Requiem.
These are... Okay, 3 of those are very similar games.
3 of those are very similar games. One of these is not like the others.
Yeah.
But anyway, so for people who are not aware, Half-Life 2 has a level progression. Halo 3 has a level progression. Plague Tale Requiem has a level progression. They pretty much go through singular spaces where your goal is very straightforward. You kind of have to get from point A to point B, and you know how to do point A to point B through the pathing, and then you move on to the next one. Mass Effect 2 is an odd one to put into that.
Yeah, don't you have the ability to kind of go wherever you want, whenever you want in that one?
I think what they're thinking of is that in Mass Effect 2, you have a set, like, quest line of different goals to do. It's mostly about collecting all of the people that are going to go on that suicide mission with you. So you do have quests that are fairly linear, and loyalty quests that are fairly linear, and then there are beats between them that are the main mission, the main storyline pieces. But the game also does allow you to move between different areas. I think the reason why they would refer to it as linear versus emergent will become more apparent when we talk about emergent gameplay, but you do have options as to how you progress through the game, but the story beats are all there, where you do have linear story pieces from one place to another. So I kind of understand that, but it's just odd to throw it in with the other 3.
I think... Not that we're completely there yet. I think if you want to talk even better about linear versus emergent gameplay, we could talk about our love-hate relationship difference with certain brands of RPGs between the East and the West.
You know what? We'll do that after I tell you what it generated for Emergent ones, and we'll
Okay.
I think that will be a much better way to talk about this. But anyway, so Emergent gameplay. Basically, this is game design that allows for complex situations to emerge from the interaction of relatively simple game mechanics. Let me see if I can AI that for you.
Debug this.
Basically, mechanics that are set up in the game that the designer does not specifically think the player is going to utilize in the way that that's put into place. And so they give 4. These are a more interesting set, I think. Deus Ex, System Shock, Minecraft, Dwarf Fortress.
I would not consider Minecraft emergent gameplay.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, what emergent systems are there?
The sandbox itself allows people to create stuff that the designer themselves did not intend.
Sure, it's a creative tool. It's not emergent gameplay.
No?
No. Like, yeah, you can do whatever you want in it. You can build a functional phone in it. You can build a calculator that works in it, I guess.
Right,
but that's a building tool. It's not gameplay.
Okay, that's an interesting way to look at it. Okay, okay.
Tool.
Yeah, I can
That
understand
is me going into a game and building a working Game Boy that plays Pokemon Red.
Yeah.
Which they have done in Minecraft, because redstone, and you can make circuits, you can make full-ass circuit boards. People do it, but they do it in creative mode. It is no longer them playing the game the way it was intended. It is them using the tools in the game as a creative tool to build the things.
So let's talk about Minecraft in the actual like story mode. Then, or it's not the story mode. That's a different game entirely. But
just the survival mode.
In the survival mode, something that it does do is allow you to build things that the designer would not have normally intended, and use the systems. Like some things can be set on fire, some things can be flooded. You can use different blocks to do different things, and the designers themselves don't necessarily suggest that that's how you move through the game.
There's no suggestion for you to move through the game at all.
Right.
I could make a dirt house.
Mm-hmm.
And then build a wheat farm.
Yeah.
And I'm good. That's all I do.
Perfect.
That's all. That's the entire thing. That's how I want to play it. It's open-end. It's open-end to the point that you can do anything you want. There are no story beats you have to hit. There is no emergent story in the game. There's no quests, unless you count killing the End Dragon as a quest.
Yeah. The Ender Dragon is like the big thing.
But the game doesn't tell you that you have to do it.
Right. But that's sort of the point, though. You don't have a set goal in mind when you get into the game itself.
It is a sandbox. It is a creative tool. You can use this game to express yourself however you would like.
Right. But that does sound kind of emergent.
No, it sounds like a sandbox.
A lot of sandboxes can have emergent gameplay.
Sure.
But with linear elements. I mean, there are
no linear elements in Minecraft.
Okay. But if it's not...
The only thing that I would consider a linear element in Minecraft would be going from wood to stone to iron to diamond.
The survival crafting mechanics. Yeah.
Just the tool making.
Right. Deus Ex makes sense to me, even though it does have level progression, because there are many different ways that you can actually address a situation, and a lot of them are probably not intended by the designer, because I know that if I have the right abilities, I can stack a bunch of boxes on the backside of the Statue of Liberty on Liberty Island, go up 3 different floors, bypass a bunch of things, and, the designers might have thought about that as a possibility, but it was not specified that this is the kind of thing that I'm supposed to do, and it's not the only way I can address the situation. I could shoot out all the cameras and go in guns blazing. I could stealth kill everybody on the island, and And there's probably a lot of ways that I could do it that the designers didn't intend. I have not played Dwarf Fortress, so I can't really speak to that one.
I have. The issue with Dwarf Fortress to me is that there's no real tutorial that tells you things. It's very much in the vein of pre-Minecraft games that here you need a wiki article to play this.
Right. And I don't know if it necessarily... I think that there's just a lot of randomness to Dwarf Fortress, so...
Yes.
From what I've seen.
It's the emergent gameplay comes from the things that happen in the game, such as leaving beer out and the cat getting into the beer, and then the cat getting a beer addiction.
Right.
That's things that have happened. My Dwarf Fortress, sorry, it's just Minecraft, definitely has emergent gameplay because the things you do reflect on the things that happen from that, and vice versa.
Okay. I see. So
if I dig a wall, and suddenly there's water on the other side of it, and I dig the wall out in Dwarf Fortress, it's gonna flood into my caves or my home or whatever like that.
Right.
You know, the same thing. I guess the same thing would happen in Minecraft if you dig into it.
Yeah.
But you have a much faster reaction speed to that generally in Minecraft, whereas Dwarf Fortress, it's like, oh shit, now I gotta tell the dwarves to build a wall there, and then they gotta come down here into this flooding chamber if they all didn't just die.
Right. I mean, I guess what they're kind of suggesting here is that even though you can react faster to it, it does have an emergent element because when you interact with those systems, things might happen that the designers didn't intend. Even if I can, patch it quickly. Dwarf Fortress, obviously your decisions are going to have more severe consequences because you can't quickly adjust. In Deus Ex, which, again, one of my favorite games, in Deus Ex, the things I do in Chapter 1 are going to directly affect how things unfold in Chapter 2, 3, 4, etc. But it does have a bit of linearity because you move from one mission to another, and there are specific goals that you have to achieve in Mission 1, 2, and 3. Until I figure out who the leader of... Until I deal with the leader of the organization at Liberty Island, I can't move on to the next chapter. Like, that is a linear element in an otherwise emergent game. So they do interact with each other. They can interact with each other. But as you were saying, maybe it makes sense a little bit more to talk about the East versus West kind of RPGs and how those function. Because I would normally say that the traditional, and I say traditional just because everyone's borrowed from everyone at this point, but when you traditionally think of like a Japanese RPG, they do have fairly linear systems for progression.
Yes, and very linear stories up to a specific, like generally like the first 2/3 of the game is pretty linear for them.
I've played Final Fantasy 13. The first 30 hours
literally linear.
Very, very linear.
Also, go check out that great video about the difference between Final Fantasy 13 and 10. Great video. Forget who it's by. Sorry.
We'll try to find it for you.
It's a design doc, maybe?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was linear gameplay and the difference in Final Fantasy 10 and 13, which are both 100% linear games up to like 2/3 in, but they feel incredibly different.
Oh, yeah, I'd be interested in that myself because...
oh, good. You can find it and link it here later.
Perfect. 13 was so linear to me, and the only reason why I stuck with it is because people said, after 30 hours, it really opens up. And I was like, okay, I'll stick with it.
After 30 hours, it opens up, but the 30 hours to get there are a slog.
And what they don't tell you is that after you get through that 30 hours, it's just a big open hub where you have to grind out until you can just say, I want to do the end of the game now.
See, the difference, you can watch the video, but
I'll watch the difference.
10 does essentially the same thing, where the first 30 hours is fairly linear, but it's not literally a linear corridor.
Yes.
It's very different environments. You get to explore the world. It is just you're going from place to place on a journey. You go watch the video. Tell me how you like it.
Yeah.
10 was good.
10 was good.
13, I put down after like 7 hours.
Yeah. 15 I finished. 15 is the one I finished. So
10 I have over 300 hours in.
Sure, yeah. 15 I actually finished, and 15 was good because from the outset it actually is much more open. Like, it starts very open and allows you to go in different places. But at any rate...
So, and then...
Yeah.
Eastern RPGs. Eastern? Western RPGs. We're the West, thank you.
Yeah.
Depending where you are in the world, I guess we're the West.
I guess so.
Western RPGs are typically a bit more open.
Yes.
They're usually more open world RPGs, such as, I'm sure you would say, Skyrim.
Yeah, and it's not even that Skyrim is open. Skyrim creates systems, like they were talking about for Emergent RPGs, that you may not use the way the designers intended, maybe because there were so many glitches you could exploit in Skyrim.
Well, and the other thing with Skyrim, for instance, we're going to use that as an example, because it's a very emergent game, honestly. There are ways to do quests that the game does not tell you can do that you wouldn't think you can do, and if you don't try it, you're not going to know about it.
Right.
Nathan, you ever joined the Dark Brotherhood in Skyrim?
Yes, I did.
Yeah? Mm-hmm. Which one of the people in that building did you murder so you could do it?
I don't remember. I don't think... Did I? I don't think I did.
Yeah, you have to join it. You get kidnapped, and then
probably the most annoying one.
Sure.
Was it was there the clown dude? I want to say maybe that.
No, that's in the Dark Brotherhood. So I'm talking about to join it. Astrid kidnaps you and says you have to.
Yeah.
They're all criminals. Pick one of them.
I don't remember
to kill.
I don't remember
which is the right one to kill. Doesn't matter which one, but you get 3 options, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you know there's a 4th option?
Oh, can you kill Astrid?
You can kill Astrid.
Oh, okay.
And what happens when you do this is it actually gets you on a quest chain to dismantle the Dark Brotherhood.
Yeah.
Which is not something I've done. I've learned about it and been like, I did not actually expect killing the assassin to be something you could do in that quest. Right. Because the quest says, man, kill one of these people. And it's like, okay, well, you get an option of which of the 3 to kill, but the 4th option's sitting behind you, and you can still kill her.
Right. In similar fashion, I would say if I go to, like Obsidian is a good example of this. You know, there are certain quest lines that you can do, and there are a couple different factions that you can usually do in those, if we're looking at, like, Outer Worlds or Fallout New Vegas. There's usually a couple options, but then there's usually also other options that the game doesn't necessarily tell you about, and that maybe the designers didn't necessarily intend for, but they put the mechanics in place so that you could. Like, for instance, in New Vegas, you can kill everybody in that game, and you can still complete the game. You can eliminate all of the factions, basically, if you want to, and it is going to change the interaction that the game has with you. It is not something that the game says you should do. They usually try to discourage you from it, but they also account for the fact that you might actually want to do it. So I would consider that to be emergent gameplay because it's not necessarily what the developers intended me to do, but they provided the mechanics in order for me to do it. Skyrim is a really good example of that, though. I mean, after you get through that first, what I would think is a fairly linear section, which is where you're escaping from being decapitated and you get out into the world, after that point, the world is sort of your oyster, and the stuff that you run across is not necessarily in the normal course of play what you would run across. I've
had playthroughs that happen very, very differently.
Oh, yes.
And that's not even including mods like, Start Another Life, where you don't have to play as the Dragonborn. You can pick a different outlying, beginning.
Yeah.
Oh, I was a sailor.
Mod.
Oh, I was a barbarian. I was a thief.
Yeah, I like that mod a lot.
I'm no longer playing... Yeah, I'm no longer playing the Dragonborn. I'm playing a nomad.
Yeah.
A necromancer, even.
Yeah. Western RPGs, when they started developing those, took more of an idea of like the sandboxy sort of being able to go everywhere, more open world, and more options as to what you could do inside of that open world. There's a certain, like Final Fantasy is always a good example of the traditional JRPG. There is a storyline that you really have to follow, and there are story beats and very long cutscenes that you are going to go through in order to tell that story. It's not as clear-cut in Western RPGs, and that's by design, I think mostly because they're trying for a completely different experience for the user. In a lot of, like, the Final Fantasy games, for instance, you're embodying a character, and that character has a specific story that you're going through. In a lot of Western RPGs, you're creating a character, and you're building their story from playing the game. And it's not always going to be the same.
You're usually a pretty blank slate in the Western RPGs.
Yeah.
At least the open-ended ones, you are generally a pretty blank slate.
Pretty blank slate, yeah. So that's probably one of the best places that, unfortunately, yes, my chatbot didn't necessarily give me any RPGs to go with. Good job, chat.
This is why we don't use these things.
Exactly.
You hear that, AI?
Yeah.
You're useless.
Just for the record, when they gave me the examples of Emergent gameplay, the little chatbot, every single one of its reference points is from Wikipedia.
Great source, thanks, Bing.
We came up with better examples than you did, damn it. Anyway, so just to kind of like cap this piece of the discussion off, almost any game is going to have some linear and some emergent elements, I think, unless it is a really rigid system. But what do you actually find yourself interacting with more positively?
I enjoy a bit of both, honestly. I enjoy Skyrim, for instance, as an example. I enjoy Fallout 4, though I've never finished it, because holy shit, I get bogged down every time.
You never found Sean?
No. I also really definitely used to, don't know if I still do, but I enjoy like JRPGs, for instance. So linear can do a world of good as well. I think what I find myself missing these days are more linear RPGs and linear gameplay that drags you through the storyline, like I used to play on the PS2 era console.
Oh, sure.
Because back in those days, when the games were much smaller, to fit on a disc, they had to have a compact story. You know, it could be a long story, but it had to be more compact, and it was a linear story that took you through it. And so Final Fantasy X, where I said I had 300 hours, it's because I enjoyed it. The problem I have here with the open-ended games and the emergent gameplay aspect is that it is so open to the point that I do not have to interact with the story they are telling. So, for instance, I've played Skyrim several times.
Yeah.
I've only beaten the main story once.
Yes.
And that was when I sat down and said, all right, I'm going to do the main storyline with the dragons and the main storyline with the Civil War.
Yes.
And that way I can say I've played the two major, I consider those the two major storylines within the game. And I finally did it after probably 200 hours in the game or more, I would say.
Sure.
Now with a JRPG, it pulls you straight through it.
Right.
And I think that is used to be, at least, again, I don't play as much and I get bored of games super quickly these days. But those ones pull you through the story. So they have a story they want to tell, and they want you to fucking get the story out of the way.
Yeah.
They don't want you to sit there and dawdle doing something else.
Right.
So I enjoy both for different reasons.
Yes.
It depends on, I guess, the mood I'm in when I'm gaming.
Sure. I find it difficult to play games that are specifically, like, purely one or the other. And I think the reason is because emergent gameplay is a lot of fun because you just fuck around with the systems in a lot of ways and, like, kind of try to outsmart the game itself, you know. And that's a lot of fun, and it gives you a lot of player agency. However, if you only have a game that does that, there's not enough structure for you to want to actually complete it or really keep you going through the game. And so you need some linear elements of, this is the mission you're going on that gets you to this next mission, that gets you to this next mission. And if you have fully linear games where it's just like go from point A to point B, I don't find it interesting enough for me to want to play. There's just not enough meat on the bones for me to want to go through it. So you kind of need to have a little bit of both, and if you aren't, maybe like, I wouldn't even say like a little bit of both, I would say maybe like 70% emergent kind of gameplay elements, and maybe 30% linear gameplay elements is good, because then you have enough spine to the game, but you really get to flesh it out as you're going through, and play around with it. For me, that works, and it's the reason why... Maybe it's the reason why certain, like, Metroidvanias, and, like, that's one of my favorite genres, and why I like immersive sims, because there is a linearity to those to some degree, where you have to go through certain, points, but it also rewards exploration, and trying new things, and doing different things that, are not necessarily spelled out for you. So, I like that. But I'm wondering how everybody else feels. Do you like emergent gameplay? Do you like linear gameplay? How do you want them to interact with each other? Please tell us your thoughts on it in the comments down below, or over on our Discord. We have a public Discord too, if you want to check that out.
Let us know what grinds your grind.
Yes, fine. Grind, I don't know if that's considered emergent or linear. I feel like it's just bad.